afternoon, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of our MSME Masterclass. Today's session focuses on a question that sits at the heart of every construction business: how to build faster, better, and within budget without compromising on quality or long term performance. Joining us in this is Mr. Devendra Limaye, co-founder and director at Prosure Infraa Private Limited, with over 3 decades of experience in construction and building projects. He brings more than 20 years of hands-on experience in and expertise in on-ground execution, with a strong focus on improving efficiency, optimizing costs, and accelerating project delivery across residential and commercial developments. Over the years, he has worked extensively on refining construction approaches, driving better material utilization, enhancing durability, and reducing life cycle maintenance costs. His experience spans planning, execution, and material strategy, with a clear understanding of how design and material decisions directly influence timelines, profitability, and build quality. In addition, his association with NABL certified lab operations brings a technical lens to quality assurance and material validation, an area often overlooked but critical to consistent project outcomes. We're delighted to have him with us today to share practical on-ground insights that MSMEs can directly apply immediately to improve execution discipline and deliver projects more efficiently. Good afternoon, sir, and welcome to our MSME Masterclass.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me here.
Thank you, sir. So we'll begin with our first question. Can you tell our attendees what, in your experience, causes the biggest delays in construction projects for MSMEs?
Yeah. So based on our experience, we have seen that it is the planning stage that causes the most of the delays. So when we say planning, a lot of people do just overall top level planning. They don't go to the extreme detail, or which is called as micro planning by one of our clients. He calls that as a micro planning. So each and every activity, the material, the safety, the service life, then sustainability, all the factors which are the 5 key factors for any project are basically considered in extreme detail, and the project plan runs into, say, multiples of pages rather than just being one milestone based page. And I say that whenever planning is in detail, 50% of the project is already complete. So as a small kid, I used to accompany my father to the Nhava Sheva port when it was being built, because he was the expert appointed from IIT Bombay, where he was a professor. And there I could see that for the first 2 years of the project, there was no construction activity at all at the site. So everybody, including the government agencies and all, were worried how this Japanese company Mitsui, which was awarded the contract, will be able to finish. But in those first 2 years, they had huge sheds which were built, and hundreds of engineers were doing drawing, planning, material testing, because they had to adapt the materials to Indian conditions. They did extensive surveys, got all the permissions. For 2 years, there was no activity at the site. But once they started, they finished the project in record time. So a similar example you will also see when the Reliance Jamnagar refinery was built, because it is always a result of extremely detailed work in the planning that goes, so that once you start, you don't stop. Everything is basically taken care of. Whether it is finance, whether it is technology, whether it is material, supply chain, people, team, everything is in place. And then once you start, you are able to finish fast. Now these look like examples of very big projects, but I have seen that even for a smaller project, if you spend a lot of time in, say, detailed planning, the chance of success is dramatically higher.
Got it. Now, sir, how should MSMEs approach project planning to avoid time and cost overruns from the outset?
So here, for execution of any project, assuming that the entire detailed planning is done and the design is also in place, you basically require tools, material and labor. Tools and material are something which are readily available in the market. But it is the labor which always will pose some challenge for you. Basically, you will not get the labor on time, or if they come, they are not skilled enough, and so on. So what we have realized is that the labor component causes the biggest uncertainty for any kind of execution of a project. So if you pay them well, if you pay them on time, if you give them good living conditions, if you take care of them well, they will get their own say contacts to say come at the site and do your work, because they will tell in the market that this is a good site to work on where all our requirements are taken care of. But if you try to exploit the labor and you say delay the payment, and if you don't say give them good living conditions, then you will always have a labor issue, and which will be the single biggest cause of delay of the project.
So understood. So, now we want to check with you. Where do most contractors underestimate costs, and how can they correct it for early?
Yeah, for example, we had given some say specification for a waterproofing job where it is clearly written that do not apply the coating in sunlight. And when we spoke to the contractor how he is going to do the execution of the project, he said that I will apply it in the morning at 11 and it will dry by 3. So clearly is not read anything about the specification. They have basically just based it on previous experience of doing some similar project. They have not seen the site in detail. They have not checked the access, like whether it will require any special scaffolding, or they have also done some thumb rule based costing instead of going in detail. And rarely contractors do detailed rate analysis. They have just formed some rates which are prevailing market rates, and they will simply go and quote for the job, ultimately to find out that this job cannot be done at that rate. And then you will find lot of projects where contractors back out sometime in between because they don't find that execution is feasible, and this is where everybody has a loss. Yeah, because the project is stuck, the money of the contractor is stuck, and also the work is stuck, everything is stuck.
Right. And so tell us, how important is material selection in accelerating project timelines without compromising the quality?
Yeah, so here what we do is we only go for the large reputed brands because it is not just the brand that they have, but they also have all the quality systems in place, and they are able to deliver quality consistently, which is very important because most of these projects have a timeline of 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. So we need somebody who will be able to supply the material not only on time but of required quality, and also maintain both of these consistently in the entire duration of the project. So selection of a large manufacturer is the key. Second thing is, in case one of the manufacturers is not able to supply, we have at least 2 different alternatives who are able to supply the material of similar specification. So in case there is a strike or there is a band or there is a import restriction or say of or any other factor like a flood or say anything, and if one of the manufacturers is unable to supply, the other 2 alternatives ensure that we get similar quality without having any compromise on the timeline, because if you search at the last moment in emergency, you will not be able to do the entire evaluation of the material. So it is best to keep these alternatives upfront.
Right. So tell us, how can MSMEs balance speed of execution with long-term build quality?
Okay, so here the more you standardize, the more will be the speed. So if you have something which is very kind of similar, and once the team is trained to do that job, everything else becomes repetitive. So the more variations in specifications that you have, or if there are say all the time bespoke things being done, or which are certain decisions which are taken on the spot on the site, which are major, then all these things are going to impact your speed, and they will also impact the quality because the team is constantly doing new things. So once they are set with some method, tools, material and a process or an SOP, then everything has to work in the same way. And here there are a lot of things which can be done in parallel. So it is not necessary that everything has to be sequential. So if you have a good kind of planning done, and if you have if you follow the typical PERT CPM system to find out what is a dependent activity and what can be done in parallel, you will get a good mix of high quality also and speed also.
Got it. So now tell us, what role does steel and other core materials play in improving construction efficiency?
Okay. So here what happens is that most of the people try to do maximum work at site. But what we have realized is that the site work has to be kept to a minimum because it is all dependent on an external factor. You are working in open, it is subject to rain, it is subject to heat. For example, being now as we are approaching summer, we are forced to keep the sites which are in the hotter regions closed in the afternoon. So people are working in the first shift in the morning, again they take a break of 3-4 hours in the afternoon, again they say start working in the evening. Also, if you try to work in say multiple shifts and at night what happens is say no matter how many say floodlights you use, there is always it will never give you the same effect of say working in the daylight. So here the moment you reduce your site work, the chance of success of having a quality work is higher, because now say for example in steel, you can easily get the steel bent and cut at a workshop and directly send it to the site so that it is placed. So there is no activity of steel, you're cutting, bending and wastage and everything at the site. You can also use formwork, you can use RMC instead of a site mix so that you get very consistent quality. So minimizing site work is the key here.
And what are the most common execution mistakes that you've seen people make at construction sites?
Most of the designers don't take into account the environment in which the building is being built. For example, if you make a building which is very near to the seashore, it is very much prone to corrosion. So the corrosion related aspect has to be very well tackled. Whereas if you make a building which is in the interior part, there is a huge difference between the winter minimum temperature and the summer maximum temperature. So the structure is undergoing lot of thermal cycles in its lifetime, and this will result in some sort of formation of micro cracks in the structure, which will lead to corrosion, leakage and all that. So most of the issues that we see is that the design does not consider the environment in which the structure is to be placed. Second is, nobody is designing for long life. People are normally designing for the required strength as per the code. But by using certain simple methods, you can easily enhance the life of the structure to almost make it double from what it is normally experienced. Then the third one is, we have seen that there are a lot of mismatches in the drawing. So somebody has created a drawing in office, the structural design team. Some other drawing is into the project management office, and a third drawing is at the site. So the drawings are basically not matching. So if you have a centralized repository of drawings which is online and all the latest drawings are there and strict instructions are given only to take drawings from there, then these kind of mistakes will be avoided. So these are the three typical mistakes we have seen normally happening.
Got it. Now, sir, tell us how can better coordination between contractors, suppliers, and site teams reduce delays in projects?
So the earlier way was to have or to keep having number of meetings. There's a morning meeting, there's an afternoon meeting, there's an evening meeting. If you have so many meetings, then how will you work at the site? But nowadays, what has happened is, because of availability of digital tools, like everything is online, you got WhatsApp, you can do a video call, you can do video recordings, you can store everything on a drive which is accessible with permissions. So with all this, what happens is the coordination is much better between different agencies, because all these agencies are not at the same place. But in spite of being at different places, they are all sort of connected digitally to each other in real time. So there is no gap now, there is no delay. So this has to be leveraged to the maximum and use maximum digital tools as possible, so that you don't get any say communication gaps between the team, and the coordination is obviously better.
All right. So now moving on, what systems or processes can MSMEs adopt to track progress more effectively on site?
So actually, if you see here, we need to track a lot of information, like what material is being purchased, where is it utilized, how much manpower is on site. Now there are certain ERP tools which have come up which help you to manage the site. But what we have experienced is you can also do similar functions by creating a set of Google Sheets or Excel sheets and sharing them with the team, and also creating lot of repositories of photos, videos and all that. Because whenever you go in for a ready-made system, you will be limited to the features which are available in that system. You will not be able to easily add anything to it. And then you will end up in basically two systems, one which you have bought and one which is for the gaps which you have identified which cannot be done there. Again, the team is working on two. So internally we have decided to work with only one system, and we use Google Sheets, Google Drive and all these things a lot. So everything is standardized there. So our team knows how to use only one system. So it's much easier.
Right. Now, so tell our attendees, how can MSMEs plan procurement to avoid last minute shortages or price shocks?
So sometimes what happens is you can create a long-term contract with a supplier, but you always have to remember that if you are trying to lock a supplier into a rate which is going to be valid for 2 years, he is already going to factor all the uncertainty that is going to come in the market. So you might be buying at a higher price which he has anticipated that the rate will go up in the future, but you will be say buying at a higher price right now. So like what we do is that every few months we do a survey in the market and we check what are the market rates, and we always have at least 3 alternative suppliers, and everybody's lead time is also factored in, so that we know that if something is ordered, like for example you order steel is going to reach your site within 1 week. There is no rocket science. RMC will also reach. But if you are going to buy some specialized construction chemical and the factory is kind of situated somewhere long from your site, which involves a lot of transport, there is a manufacturing time and all that, so in these cases the lead times are longer. So those are some of the areas where you need to be kind of extra careful. One more factor that we have seen is that for the transport. Now the moment you go into a shared kind of a transport, that your material is clubbed with 5 other people and then it will go from point A to point B to point C, then there is a huge delay that happens in the transport itself. So many a times it is better to book a direct transport and club your own material into the truck which is getting picked from different places and then send it forward, so you easily save a few weeks of time.
Right.
So these are some things that you can do.
Right. Now, so tell us, what is the impact of poor vendor selection on timelines and budgets?
So usually there is a sort of a tendency to select the vendor who is giving you the lowest price. So that is a very natural tendency. But what we have done is that we have created a 3-part system. First, we evaluate the credentials of the company, their entire track record, their management team, their technology, their ability to service, their brand in the market. So only selected vendors who pass this test, this evaluation criteria, are further selected for the items. So then we check what is the range of items that they can give. Then the third thing is the price. So if you are going to go for some technology, then the technology has to be proven. If you are going to then select a manufacturer of that technology, the manufacturer has to be proven reliable, big, with sufficient turnover. And then the third one is the item that they produce has to be passing our quality check and the sampling. And then lastly we look at the price. So once you follow this filtered system, very less chances that you will select a poor vendor. Because the moment you select a vendor who is not able to deliver for a small item, your entire large project can be held up because you are not able to move forward.
That's absolutely right, sir. So my next question to you is a question that is often asked by a lot of MSMEs who come on our platform. How can standardization in materials or design help improve speed and reduce cost?
Yeah, so here one of the examples that you can see is that what is the number of days that you can imagine that the Empire State Building in New York, which is I think a 100-floor building, was built almost 100 years back. So the answer is 400 days. They could build it so fast because the entire building is standardized. So it is just like a block. It is like a vertical factory that you are building. Instead of a horizontal thing, you are now building vertical. So everything was pre-made. It was just got to the site and assembled. And once the part of structural was over, the team used to work inside the building for finishing, as the structural part above could be made and floors were getting added. So here the key is to basically standardize. The more you standardize the design, the more you standardize the materials, the more scale you will get. The moment you start saying that I will decide what to do here after 2 months, and then you come up with some fancy idea, that is going to drop your speed like anything. So again it comes to everything has to be planned in detail, everything has to be approved before you even start work at the site.
Right. So tell us, what are some practical ways to reduce rework during construction?
Yeah, so the first thing is that the specifications have to be very clear on what you want to do. Second is that the drawings have to be in very much detail. There is no point in giving a sketch or a concept drawing at the site. So the drawing that you make has to be directly implemented at the site without any changes. And the third one is that there are no assumptions. So if anybody has made an assumption, it has to be clarified, and then a very strong communication system has to exist between all the stakeholders, because everybody is working for the success of the project. So that alignment meeting is extremely critical, which we normally take as the first meeting, where we align all the stakeholders that the project success is our goal. Somebody's individual success or brownie points is not the goal. So once you do this, then your rework automatically reduces, because there is a lot of synchronization in the team and everybody knows what is going to happen. One more thing which can be done is that you do a lot of sampling. If you are doing something new, then you make a small sample, then you test it, get it approved, and then you scale it up, so that rework is avoided. If any changes are to be done, it is done usually at the sampling stage itself.
Correct. Now, sir, tell us how should MSMEs think about labor productivity and skill gaps at site?
Yeah, so one thing which we have seen is that nobody reads a manual. So if you give them a very thick manual, which is usually in English or Hindi or whatever you do, with some photos and all that, then there is a big chance that nobody is going to read it. So the only way to get your labor, productivity on site and to bridge the skill gap is training. And the training is done hands-on. We also create videos of the training, so that these videos are continuously shown in the site office to the relevant labor, so that they know what to do, what not to do, what tools to use, because there are very small points. You might think that I have to just apply a waterproofing coating, but when you create a SOP out of it, it will not run in less than 6 pages. Now, for a labor to understand 6 pages is very difficult. So first, the engineer doesn't know English, because English is not our first language. So the engineer understands only half of it. Then he's translating that into Hindi and telling the labor. So the labor is understanding again half of it. So the work which gets executed is completely different from what you have given in SOP. But if you create a video and the talking language is Hindi, it is very easy to explain the entire SOP in one video. And nowadays, because everything is accessible on the mobile and all our sites have got good Wi-Fi connections, which we install as access points, anybody can see a training video on the site. They don't have to come to office necessarily to see it.
Right.
So if they have a doubt or whatever, they can just see a 10-minute video before they start that work, so they have a refresher.
Absolutely right, sir. So now we move on to an important leg, which is technology. Tell us, what role does technology play today in improving construction efficiency for smaller businesses?
So here, if you consider what we used to do 50 years back, and if you consider today, there is a big change which has happened only because of technology. So the basics of civil engineering and the calculations have remained the same. That has not changed, because building is a building. So buildings are being made for hundreds of years. Even Romans used to create buildings. Now what has changed here is that if you are able to leverage the entire technology, and now the biggest your technical advancement is the mobile phone that you have in your hand. So information is accessible to you directly from anytime, anywhere. You don't have to be in office just to access information. For example, in the times of COVID, we all learned how to work, say, digitally, forcibly. There was no way to work physically. So I myself, what I did is I stopped all my writing. I used to write and sketch a lot. Those days I decided that I will do everything online. And then online has become basically a culture in the company, that we don't, except for maybe signing of some legal documents or papers, I don't remember writing anything for the last few years. So on the site, it is very important to get a CCTV network so that you can monitor from head office what is happening at the site. Second is regular photos and videos have to come. All the data has to be digital. There are no hard copies. Hard copies can be taken because on the site you need to open the drawing, mark things and all that. But otherwise the repository is all into the digital platform. You also have to enable multi-device access. Somebody is on a laptop, somebody is on a mobile, somebody is on a tablet. Now all these devices have to be able to access the same data. So with all this, what you do is, because the speed increases, rework decreases, and there's a lot of coordination between the various stakeholders, you will find that the efficiency automatically goes up by using the digital tools.
So tell us, how can MSMEs ensure that the quality control, that there's quality control without slowing down the project timelines and execution?
Correct. So here usually what happens is that the quality department will just check the finished work. Once an activity is over, somebody, quality engineer, will come. He will do some kind of basic test and all that, and he will say that yes, the quality is okay. But what we have experienced is that quality checks have to be a part of your execution SOP itself, the methodology. So at every stage there is a check. For example, if you take a biscuit factory, they don't check the biscuit at the end. So at every stage the biscuit is being checked, whether the input, say raw material, is correct, or is your packaging correct, and finally you get a good product. Similarly in this, you have to keep on checking at each and every stage, and it has to be a part of the culture that testing. Unless you do testing, there is no way to find out whether the quality is okay. Visually you cannot sort of make out, because for example, the steel that we get at the site, though it is marked as JSW and it has a grade and all that, we still send the steel to a third-party testing lab to ensure what we have bought is what is matching to the third-party lab report. So here there are no assumptions. So once you have a culture of extensive testing, then obviously your work doesn't get stopped. Because on a site, if somebody has a issue with quality, the first thing which is done is that the work is stopped. And when work stops, there is obviously a delay because the labor is idle. Then you are losing time and money both. So this kind of continuous testing helps.
And what early warning signs indicate that a project is going off track?
Yeah. So for example, if you say that my project is a 1,000-day project, 1,000 days. Now you have completed 100 days of the project, means 10% of the time is gone. Now for that 100 days, you would have planned certain, say, activities. That certain activities have to be done. Now these activities obviously have a value. So what we do is that at every project milestone, we check whether the value of work which is done is matching to what was planned. So it's a single number. And I was told that Reliance built the Jamnagar refinery. They used to track only one number, that what is the project spent today. If it is higher than what they have planned, there were no questions asked. But if it was lower than what they have planned, somebody is going to ask you hundreds of questions. So what you need to say sort of monitor at a higher, say at a top level or the management level, is a single number that will tell you what is happening. Otherwise what happens is a lot of PERT charts, Gantt charts, project reports, and there is a tendency to get lost in the data. So with this single number, that my time elapsed is so much, and your value of project should be so much and actually so much. That will give you a very quick dashboard of where you are.
Now, sir, talking about cash flows, can you tell us how should MSMEs manage their cash flows to keep projects running smoothly?
One sort of mistake that we have seen some clients making is they have based the cash flow of the project on the future inflows that they are going to get. They don't have the project fund set aside. So they have arranged for some bank loan, they have arranged for some funding, and they hope that the funding will be arranged for the gap as the project goes ahead. Now the risk here is that if the funding doesn't happen, the asset that you are building is half complete, it is a dead asset, you are losing money each day because you are not able to generate revenue. So our recommendation is that you should keep the funds aside before you start any project, or have a firm kind of a timeline in which the funds are 100% going to come, and if they don't come, you should have at least 2 or 3 backup arrangements, because it is an asset that you are building for long term, and this asset is going to give you the revenue. So completion of the project in the smallest amount of time, faster, to the required specification, is key for your revenue generation to start. So this has to be arranged very, very properly.
And sir, tell us what trade-offs should be avoided when trying to deliver projects faster.
So sometimes we have seen there are shortcuts taken, especially in terms of safety. So somebody wants to do something fast, so without thinking of safety, they start the work, and if there is a safety incident at site, then the work gets stopped. So once things are absolutely planned and it is very clear that no shortcut will be taken in methodology, no material substitution is done, because we had a case where somebody had substituted this khadi that you put in the concrete by a different grade, and then the strength of concrete had gone down because it was a khadi which was failing. Without asking somebody, they had taken some kind of a side decision and they went ahead. So once you do this, there are no shortcuts to be taken now. Everything is well planned, and in case something happens, you already have a plan of contingencies, that if this happens, I will do this. So this is usually called as risk management, but in terms of simple words, practically, for any kind of contingency, you should have a plan, so that when the incident happens, you don't keep searching of what to do.
Now, sir, my last question to you for today's session is, if an MSME wanted to improve execution starting tomorrow, what are the first 3 things you would recommend them to do?
So here again, as I said in the beginning, it is the planning, which is the key for any execution. So you might have the best team, you might have the best material, but if the planning is not done, and from planning I mean everything, it is not just making a drawing. It has to be how to say, for example, how do you get the labor, where will they stay, what is their food arrangement, what is the testing that you will do, what are the quality standards. Each and everything is planned. For example, my friend who is a productivity coach had asked me one day that how many steps do you think are there to make tea? I said 10, 15, 12 steps. He said there are 84 steps to make tea. First is you will think about making tea, then you will get up, then you will walk to the kitchen, you will open the kitchen door. What he was trying to say is, if you follow the exact steps using the same tea leaves, the same gas, the same burner, the same vessel, whoever follows those exact steps is going to produce the same taste of tea. It is not कि इसके हाथ की चाय ने उसके हाथ की चाय, ऐसा होगा ही नहीं. So now you have something which is totally standardized, and in India usually we believe in some culture which is a जुगाड़ culture, कि ठीक है पहले आगे जाते हैं फिर देख लेंगे. But that is what is going to set you back, because at every point you have to think of some जुगाड़ or some shortcut. But once you plan in extreme detail, I think he had guided one of his clients who was going to open a factory. He had a timeline of 9 months, and he only told them for 15 days, you and your team get out of the office, go to a remote site, say in a resort, and for 15 days only do detailed planning. You will not do anything else. And when they came back, they could complete the project in 4 months. So the revenue started 5 months earlier. They were very happy. Otherwise, it would have taken them 9 months to start the revenue, because your bank loan, EMI, everything starts. So the planning, I think, is the first thing that is to be done, and the discipline to follow the process without taking any shortcuts.
Thank you so much for that lovely input, sir. With that, we've come to the end of today's lovely episode on building faster, better, and within budgets. Thank you so much for being with us and for sharing your detailed insights with our attendees. Thanks, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
For our attendees who are online, if you've missed any part of today's amazing episode, please go on YouTube, type JSW One MSME, and you'll find all our episodes uploaded there. Thank you once again, sir. Bye.
Thank you.